most of the times when you put out gory details, it's out of catering to voyeurism of the viewer as well. But
not for us, not for India.
Exactly,
not for India. Let's be very clear about that.
Have we ever done that? Even in Sushant Singh Rajput's case,
which is
we
a
were
question,
so responsible. No shit.
Which is a question that we need to ask. That's
so
the
have
reason.
we shown the face?
That's
no.
the reason for the democratic newsroom, which is that.
That's also guidelines we need to follow. There is strict law against
we've never crossed that line, Shiv.
No, but there are
India today hasn't. Doing it now too.
India today hasn't. There are many others who have, and that's the reason why the democratic newsroom is happening, where we're actually
I'm
pointing the mirror at ourselves in the way we're
doing it. I'm in agreement with you that we've always been responsible.
I just believe, as you know, as senior anchors and reporters, I believe it's always important to be mindful of being in the heat of a story. When we're consumed by all that information, there is a sense of being almost seduced by all the information that comes out. That's a terrible word to use in this context.
You get pulled in, essentially.
You get pulled in, you know, you become part of the narrative, you're invested in how it's going to turn out, and sometimes those filters can get a little blurry. So I want to just assure all of our viewers that this is something that India Today, as the channel having broken the story, takes very, very seriously. So you will not see us sidestepping our responsibilities as that is concerned.
The entire lawyers fraternity today came out in huge protest. They asked for capital punishment, and that's thanks to us. We've been putting the facts out. It's important for us, and as gory as it is for us to put out the facts.
Even once where we've put out any graphical image.
Now let me
we've not put out even one graphical image.
Let's come to another aspect, which mercifully has been a kind of side show as far as this is concerned, but it emerged quite immediately, which was the whole love jihad aspect. You had politicians say this is love jihad. You had some people demanding an investigation into the love jihad angle. There was a great deal of scrutiny over the fact that Aaftab is a Muslim, Shraddha is a Hindu. That emerged even before any of the details of that relationship came up.
It is a non-starter of a conversation, because if the established motive of the crime is religion, then it accounts to love jihad. From here, what we're picking up from sources, the established motive was never religion.
But we don't know any of those things yet.
It's still being investigated.
So either way.
But why are we jumping the gun then? Then why jump the gun on love jihad?
Let's also put every question about, you know, whether you're not jumping the gun on this. But I think when you said it's a side story, Shiv, for some it's become, you know, the main aspect of the
reason why it's being consumed.
I think on social media, unfortunately, that's what was peddled initially. And many of us, I know, got trolled for not taking up that angle. But it is too early to do that. And the reason I say it is, Gaurav, you'd explain better. What is the definition of love jihad? And I think that will explain why it's not applicable in this case.
So, again, the fact that investigation is still underway, let's wait and watch what it leads to. But there have been issues, and there are several cases that are under investigation where a Rahim would give his name as Raman to befriend a girl, then get married, and then force that girl to change her religion, to convert to another religion, and also follow certain practices.
So now, this is, you know, in this case, Aaftab
that
was
Aaftab.
Aaftab.
Yeah, that doesn't apply in this case here.
So it's not this case specific. But to say love jihad does not exist.
I never said that.
No, and that is exactly why I'm clarifying.
And I said it doesn't exist in this case, you know, prima facie, from the facts that are emerging.
Let's be very clear. There is an issue that society needs to grapple with, and it would be wrong. It would be wrong to adopt an ostrich-like attitude.
Is so blurred with every case of crime. Now you have politicians jumping and saying this is a case of love jihad.
Fair enough.
That's unfortunate. Yeah, that's absolutely unfortunate, because you have murders as gruesome as this. The 2010 Anupama murder case. Her husband Rajesh killed her exactly the same way, chopped her into multiple pieces, placed it in the refrigerator. This is nothing but a psychotic case.
Yeah, did we call the Luti Bilal murder love jihad? We did not.
No,
because it was not a communally led murder. Right?
So
and here the facts have not emerged, so we should resist from calling it anything.
There remains the fact that it needs to be every case, and I'm not specifically talking about this case, but when such cases, and there is a definition, if a Rahim is changing his name to Raman to befriend a girl, leading her up the garden path, then converting, then forcing her to change her religion, those cases must be investigated. One must not adopt an ostrich-like attitude. Do not adopt an ostrich-like attitude.
You're trying to tell me that I have an ostrich-like attitude.
But have the politicians who've commented on it, as far as, you know, there are many usual suspect politicians who will find communal angles in most stories. have they been, you know, in one sense, hoping that there was some kind of angle? Because it is politically hot if there is a love jihad angle.
There was a protest that happened in Mumbai where they all condemned this and said
and while we record this, there's a VHP candlelight vigil.
They smell a larger conspiracy. When you call a larger conspiracy, what are you trying to insinuate?
You may ignore the politicians, but you should not ignore the father of the victim. Saying exactly this, investigate this angle.
On the
love jihad angle. So there is a father, he's lost his daughter. You know, everyone can be nice and hoity-toity, but be hoity-toity. You know, being woke is so fashionable
Has
these
the
days.
father said it explicitly?
Yes,
To whom?
explicitly.
One second.
No, are you listening to yourself?
I don't think the father said
Facts
it
of the
to.
case.
So,
1 minute. Can you talk about facts of this case?
say that
None of
the
facts of
father-
the case do not point to love jihad right now.
We're
If
not
the
talking
father
about-
is not pointed at love
It
jihad,
will
point to
One at a
love
time, guys,
jihad
one at a
10
time.
days later once the facts emerge. Probably. I
Father
father
wants
is not
it
pointed at love
investigated.
jihad. As of this
Father
father
is not pointed at love jihad. No, father has not said that.
Let's not go
That's not been
go into
said.
who knows what, but I think what's very clear right now is that all of us will agree that if there needs to be an investigation, let there be an investigation. But
Correct.
right now,
Correct.
going by what we know, there doesn't seem to be enough.
It doesn't seem to be that at all,
The gun is for political brownie points.
And I think
Correct.
those taking that line are doing it for their own political purposes. But
They have an agenda.
the investigation is far from
right?
over. The one thing we can agree, guys, is that the investigation is far from over. You know, even though it may seem like an open and shut case, there are many dangers. Gaurav, you've been a crime reporter for a long time. How many times have cases gone completely upside down 20 days later?
And
Not just 20 days later.
Yeah.
Convicted by lower court, convicted by high court,
And then set free.
overturned by Supreme
Exactly.
Court.
So
that is why investigation has to be transparent.
Yeah.
That is why investigation has to be science-based and not
Absolutely.
just on the
And
basis of conventional statements.
also you can't be tampering around with this kind of an investigation and spinning off a certain narrative in media without having the facts.